Hello future medical students, my name is Zachery D. I'm from Windsor, Ontario, Canada, and as part of the OzTREKK Mcat Ambassador team, this is a first introductory video of a many-part series to help ensure that you maximize your Mcat score and ensure you get into the medical school that you deserve. So without further ado, I'll give you some background information to me. For the last 18 months, I've worked as Examcracker's first and only Mcat mentor. But my story goes back farther than that. So if we want to talk, when I was in high school, I was always an 80s, 90s honor roll student, didn't really have to work too hard. But when I transitioned into my freshman, my first year university, I'm so used to speaking to US students, but these are obviously Canadian students. So my first year university, it didn't go as good as I wanted. I had no structure, tons of freedom. And I ended up finishing my first year GPA with a 0.59 GPA. I had 9 Fs on my transcript. And I remember to this day, I called the dean of my program to ask him if I can get reinstated back into the program. And I said, this is Dr. blah, blah, blah. This is me. This is why this happened. What can I do to get reinstated? And I'll never forget what he said back to me. He said, Zachary, look, maybe university just isn't right for you. And when I hung up that phone, I remember I was devastated. My parents had no idea that this happened to me my freshman year. My mom, who's a teacher, who's really proud with education, my dad, who's a very blue collar, hardworking, owns his own business, they were extremely devastated. When I was at the dinner table, my mom left the dinner table, my dad said, move out son, pack your bags. So this was really a breaking point for me. So I was able to, we could go on another tangent, we could talk about this another day, but I was able to recover and turn into a 4.0 GPA student. That wasn't easy, but I was able to overcome that and use that pain as fuel to now be a medical student. I'm the first year medical student at the University of Sydney, but that wasn't easy. I had to do an undergrad, then I had to do my post-bac, which I did at the Lawrence Technological University in Southfield, Michigan, and then I wrote my Mcat. And each of those phases required a different me. So when I excelled and finally figured out how undergrad works, that didn't work in my post-bac. When I started excelling in my post-bac, that didn't work in the Mcat. And what worked for the Mcat, unfortunately, isn't always working here in medical school. So what I want to let you guys know, first and foremost, take everything with a grain of salt. Whatever anyone tells you how to study, apply it, track its progress. If it works for you, great, add it to your repertoire. If not, move on. So what we're going to be doing here is discussing specifically the Mcat, but I wanted to give you a quick introduction of me, who I am, and yeah, so like I said before, first and only Examcracker's Mcat mentor. I've been doing that for 18 months. I've worked with over 120 students, and if you want, for more resources, you can follow me on Instagram at MD Motivator. So I use my story to help empower students to achieve their dreams. Because if me, a student who had 9 Fs on his transcript, had a 0.59 GPA, was told by his dean couldn't do college, can get over a 510 on the Mcat, I can promise you, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, each and every single one of you can get the Mcat score that you set for yourself. Those are the facts. One of the other things I want to discuss before we break for this part of the introduction of the series is, when do you write the Mcat? So obviously you want to write the Mcat a year before you plan on starting medical school, because it's an application cycle and it takes a year. But the number one rule that I tell every single student I speak to is, you take the Mcat when your practice scores align with your goal scores. Not your academic advisor, not your application timeline, not your family, not your friends. Those are important, but those aren't going to guarantee that this is the one and done Mcat time for you. At the end of the day, you want the Mcat to be a one-time thing. You don't want to say, if it doesn't go good this time, then I'll do it again next time, because there's already gaps in students' applications. Don't let the Mcat become the next gap. So that is really essential before we even discuss how to plan for the Mcat, what the Mcat breakdown is, and then obviously what I do is I'm a strategy coach. So I work with students and we break that down. So today I'm going to keep this very simple, an overview of the Mcat. So usually, I'm assuming the students I'm speaking to is for the 2021 Mcat test date. It's a 7.5 hour test. This consists of 4 sections. So we have chemistry, physics, we have CARS, which is the reading comprehension section. Then we have biochem, which is bio and biochemistry. And then lastly, the psychology and the sociology section. Each section is approximately 90 minutes, and the 3 science sections are 59 questions each, whereas the CARS is 53 questions. That's in 90 minutes as well. in each break. So between Chem, Phys, and Cars, you'll get a 10-minute break. Between Cars and Biochem, so the halfway mark, you get a 30-minute lunch break. And then between Biochem and Psych Social, you get another 10-minute break. That's the overview of the MCAT. So the MCAT's a 7.5-hour test. I'm assuming up to this point, no student has written a 7.5-hour test or isn't comfortable with doing so. So if you're wondering, gee, Zach, how do I do good on the MCAT? Well, if it's a test you've never seen before or done before, what do you think you're going to need to do a lot of? A lot of practice. And that's what we're going to be talking about from day one, is how to practice questions, how to use practice tests. There will never be a point in your prep where you say, okay, I know all the material, let me go and do a practice test. It's not like your undergrad, it's not like a postbac, it's not like a master's. You're never gonna know all the material. The MCAT is not a science test. Believe it or not, it's not a science test. It's a reading comprehension test with science. So in other words, to get good at the MCAT, we need to get good at reading comprehension, and we need to just master the basics. We can master the basics through looking and doing tons of questions and tons of tests. Because in terms of the MCAT material, you're gonna notice with the more questions and the more tests you do, the material that keeps coming up frequently, and more importantly, how it's being asked and how the trap answers are being brought up. So it's very important to replicate with as much questions and as much tests as you possibly can. And we're gonna break all of that down in this mini-part series moving forward. Like I said, my name is Zachary. I am, first-year medical student at the University of Sydney, and if this is reaching you, I am extremely excited to start this series and get the show on the road. So I look forward to talking to each and every single one of you. You can add me on Instagram, like I said before, at MDMotivator, and we can talk more. But yeah, that's it. Everyone have a great day. Peace.